Welcome to SKNV DermTalks. We're thrilled to have Cassie Cohen, a PA from Warrington, Pennsylvania, with us today. With nearly a decade of experience, she specializes in diagnosing and managing a variety of dermatologic conditions, including acne, rosacea, psoriasis, and more, with a special focus on acne and psoriasis patients. She also offers aesthetic services like Botox and dermal fillers, and is always staying up to date on the latest techniques to ensure natural, beautiful results while keeping patient safety a priority. When she's not in the office, Cassie enjoys spending time with her husband and two children exploring Bucks County, Pennsylvania. We're excited to hear more about her expertise and journey in dermatology. Cassie, thank you so much for being here today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I love your shirt. Happy PA week.
Thank you. Shout out to all the PAs. We are almost at 180,000 strong. So
Oh,
it's
that's
growing every year, which is an amazing thing. It's a great career.
for sure. So let's kind of dive into that. What got you started in dermatology and what made you want to become a PA?
So my mom's an esthetician, so I've always been around skincare, and just kind of following her journey since I was young. And actually, ironically, I didn't want to be a PA when I was out of high school. I wanted to be a pharmacist, and that route just didn't work out for me. And I went to a career fair and met a PA and shadowed her and just like fell in love. That was it. So I literally went to PA school knowing I wanted to do derm. Graduated in 2015, so I just celebrated the 9-year mark. And I've been in dermatology since graduation.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats. I'm sure that was so fun growing up with a mom who had all the knowledge of how to take great care of your skin.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely helpful.
Yeah, I feel like we start off kind of drilling and airing things like what's going to work and what does my skin need or what is wrong with my skin. You just start from, scratch really with different things.
Yeah,
Uh,
sometimes that's important. Just as like an aside for even providers, sometimes we don't always get it right on the first try, and that's okay. Skin is finicky, but that's the beautiful part about it. We have a lot of options.
yeah, I feel like one of the conditions that's the most finicky is acne. Let's talk a little bit about that because I know probably 99% of us have had some acne before in our lives.
Yeah, 1,000%. I'm especially passionate about acne because she is her, and that is me. So I totally understand. And I'm very compassionate towards my patients who come in for acne because it really is detrimental to your mental health, your self-confidence, your self-esteem. It just really stinks, to not like your appearance, you feel dirty. It's not great. So I'm always just really passionate about helping people understand why they have their acne, how we can treat it, more natural ways too to help between diet and things like that. But obviously prescriptions come into play with that as well.
Yeah, so when you're prescribing a patient that has acne, what does that look like for you?
So it can look like any number of things. So there are quite a few types of acne. There's nodular cystic acne, there's hormonal based acne, there's just kind of your classic inflammatory acne. So it kind of just depends which one we're dealing with. For more hormonal based acne, we normally need to do some type of anti-aldosterone inhibitor because that's basically what's happening is aldosterone is affecting the sebaceous cells, so it's making you overproduce oil, which you'll see tons of acne activity in lower face, chin, jawline, mouth area. So typically things like spironolactone, dapsone are kind of our main options that we have. And what's kind of finicky about those is they're often either not covered by insurance or they need prior auths or they're quite expensive. So that's kind of where I've tailored it to using a lot of the SKNV options because we're able to get them often together and also formulated with niacinamide, which is really great as just an anti-inflammatory.
Mhm.
And just all of those together kind of just work synergistically to help control the acne. And they work pretty quickly, which is nice. And it's a one-step option. I'm very much a minimalist. If someone told me to put 50 things on my face, I'm not going to do it. So, and I get that, we're all really busy and we all have tons of things going on in our lives. So if we can give the patient, a one-step option, that's always ideal.
Oh, definitely. I hear that all the time with different providers. They want to be able to prescribe their patients something that's simple enough so that they can have the peace of mind and know that their patients are actually going to use the medication instead of having to give them multiple medications and not knowing, are they going to stick to that plan because it is a lot to manage.
Yeah.
But I would personally not be able to do more than one at a time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you kind of mentioned prescribing skin V medications for acne. So for your patients, prescribing them directly to them, um, at first, what's that conversation look like? Do they understand what you're saying and what you're going to prescribe them? Like, they don't have to go to the pharmacy to get this medication?
Yeah, so basically, we'll talk about their acne. I'll talk about kind of just like the pathophysiology of what acne is and why they're having it, and kind of just give them a little general breakdown. And then that kind of helps me explain the medications that I'm picking. And then I explained, we can use traditional pharmacies. That usually looks like what we were just saying, 2, 3, sometimes even 4 prescriptions or morning and evening regimens, and it can get, a little bit chaotic, and especially with my teenage patients, or like I said, everybody's busy. They don't want to throw 100 things on their face. I explained that we could go that route, but what's more beneficial and just helps with patient adherence is I have an option where they can all be blended as one and they're shipped directly to your door within a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, that's enough for patients to be like, okay, that sounds great. I'm a millennial, so like I literally get toothpaste shipped to my house. Like everything is out of convenience. So if you tell me I have to go stand in line at the pharmacy, I'm like, eh. If you tell me FedEx is going to show up with a package at my door, I'm like, hey. So for most people, it's pretty convenient. You have a few times that there's a little bit of a pushback, but it's pretty rare.
Mm-hmm. That's the patient side of things. What does it look like for, in office? What does it look like for your MAs?
Honestly, just ease. I know it's sent, they're going to get their text message, it's going to get delivered. We're ready to go. We're not waiting on a callback. We're not getting, our EMR system will actually tell us as we're prescribing that things need a prior authorization. So I already know that I'm going to have to go through it, and it's just going to be more of a wait time for patients. So honestly, we send the Skin V, we know it's on its way. They're going to get exactly what I prescribed, and we're ready to go. So for me, that alone, I'm like, done deal.
Mm-hmm. Right. And in our previous pre-interview call, you mentioned that it totally removed a day away from your MAs from having to deal with prior authorizations. I'm sure your MAs absolutely love that.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, just like cost efficiency and things like that, obviously, is huge. And then again, just like patient adherence, nothing's worse than this back and forth with prior authorizations. If you ask any medical provider about prior authorizations, we will all say that they are the bane of our existence. We hate prior authorizations.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have gone to PA school if I thought insurance companies were going to tell me how to practice medicine. Honestly, it's horrendous. So I'll get off that soapbox because that could be an entire podcast. But yeah, not having to deal with that is just such a game changer.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like too, everyone's juggling so much in their day to day. If we can simplify one thing from, what your day at work looks like, more efficient to being that patient on the other end of things, not having to spend an extra 30 minutes out of your day to go wait in line. Like if it can just show up at your door and all you have to do is open up the front door, that's amazing. It's a game changer for a lot of people. Definitely. So you mentioned you like to treat patients that have acne, but also psoriasis. Some of your go-to medications or the way you address psoriasis.
Yeah, so psoriasis is an inflammatory condition. Basically, your skin cells are turning over too fast. So a lot of my psoriasis patients honestly are on biologic therapies, but we need something, kind of as a middle ground, or something to kind of get them through, especially like between their injectable medications.
Hmm.
And that's been really helpful to use a lot of the skin V meds, because oftentimes, topical steroids are definitely the treatment of choice, and those can be quite costly for patients. I actually was looking on here because I was curious, and GoodRx could be upwards of $200 for patients. And I've had that call back before, and it's
Yeah.
really upsetting as a provider to get a patient call back angry and say, I went to the pharmacy, I waited in line, and the pharmacist told me my prescription was $200. Like, why would you do this to me? And I'm like, obviously, I wasn't aware, but it just creates a headache that doesn't have to happen. So Obviously, I reach for any of the topical steroid methods, especially the solutions, because I treat a lot of scalp psoriasis. So that's definitely pretty helpful. So I know that's the Cloaxia has one, and then you guys also have one with calcipotriene, which is really great. Vitamin D analogs are beneficial for psoriasis patients as well, in conjunction with steroids. But again, you have to formulate those appropriately because they'll actually cancel each other out if you just do one and then the other, which some people don't understand. And they're like, oh, well, I'll just use this topical and this topical. It doesn't work like that. So you really need to have them together. And those compounds are also very expensive, need prior auths. There's a couple that are branded from a long time ago. Even though they've gone generic, they're still quite expensive for patients. So again, just having those kind of tried and true steroids and vitamin D analogs together at, I think the one is like $51, maybe 55 at the most. So beneficial to use, and it's cost effective.
No, and I feel like that's a lot of patients' battles. Me being a patient, you think you're going to have your insurance be able to cover a medication, and then you get to the pharmacy and it's like 4 times the price of what you're expecting, and it's just like a punch in the gut, and you're wondering what your options are.
Yeah.
It is great that SKNV has that offer of just, something that's affordable and also something that's like a guaranteed thing. You don't have to worry about being surprised when you go to the pharmacy.
Exactly.
So we talked a little bit about like all the benefits for the patients, but what about the efficiency for the provider side of things?
I've trained my entire team. We all know what the SKNV medications are. We know how to explain them to patients. We keep it pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I keep all my pamphlets in the room. I have tear-offs in the room, so patient leaves with a tear-off. So they have all the contact information. They understand, kind of just as a reiteration. We'll write what we prescribed for them on the top of it so that they know. And I will actually sit, pull the pamphlet out, show them what I'm prescribing, talk about all the actives, why they work together, show them the pricing. So I'm very upfront about everything. And then that way I feel like I've done my job. I've explained the medication, I've explained how things are going to work. And then we go from there. And it's rare that someone says, I really want you to send that to my local pharmacy instead. I would honestly say 10 times out of 10, people are like, okay, well, I'm good with this option. And truthfully, as a provider, if they really are insistent, I say, okay, that's fine. I will certainly send to your local, but please call me if it's higher than this price, because I don't want you to pay that. And like 9 times out of 10, I'm getting a call back saying like, oh, can you actually just send it to SKNV? It's going to be less expensive. So
Yeah. And that's so nice that you're able to offer that to your patients. I feel like that kind of builds the relationship between you guys, knowing that you're looking out for them.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I want to give them something that I know that works and is cost effective.
We're on that path of we're sitting them down, we're explaining to them, this is SKNV, this is more affordable. You already mentioned kind of 10 out of 10 that they're all on board for that. Do you ever have anyone feeling like it's a difficult process to understand? Like, what do you mean it's not at the pharmacy, it comes to my house?
Maybe, but I'll be honest with you, I see a lot of elderly patients. I kind of see all across the board, to be honest with you, and I use SKNV every day. So not really. I feel like I've done a decent job between me and my staff to kind of just like explain it in such a way that it's going there. Again, they're leaving with that kind of tangible, that tear off, that they're like, okay, this is where the medicine is coming from. I explain that they're going to get a text message and an email with a link. It's very user friendly. But I always tell them, like, we are here for them. If you don't hear anything by 24 hours, like, please call our office. We will, kind of help streamline things. But yeah, for the most part, I don't really have issues with that. I mean, certainly if we have very elderly patients who aren't very tech savvy, we will kind of help them through that process if need be. But usually they have a family member or someone that can help them as well. So I haven't really run into that being a huge issue. Like I said, every so often I'll run into the patient that's like, no, I need to go to CVS. And again, that's when I just say, okay, I'm going to send it, but this is, again, the price, and please call me if it's different. So,
right. And then how would you explain SKNV to a provider who's maybe never heard of us?
Basically, I would just say, we're offering topical medications in combination. So they're already going to know that most times we need to treat any inflammatory skin condition with multiple products. So we already all know that. So basically, I would just say this kind of allows for you to tailor certain medications to patients' needs, especially for those hormonal compound patients. Somebody with more oily skin type might need a higher tretinoin. Somebody that's more dry might need a lower one. So it really just gives us that kind of flexibility to tailor it to our patients, which I think is so important. And a lot of the medications are really unique, honestly. You can't get topical prescriptions with niacinamide in them. That's huge. And that kind of being that skin calmer and anti-inflammatory in and of itself is awesome. And you often can't get like a dapsone or a spironolactone topical with a tretinoin and again with a niacinamide. So you guys have kind of cornered that market, which is great because it's really not available anywhere else. So it's just giving us truly a better alternative because again, we're using multiple medications to help target certain skin conditions. It's all in one. It's going to help with your patient adherence. Nothing is worse than when a patient goes home with a laundry list of medications and this one's AM, this one's PM, this one's midday, and then they call and they've been using the night one in the morning and the morning one at night, and you're just like, oh my gosh, why? So, and honestly, as me too, like I wouldn't want all of that either. I don't want a million steps and I got to remember this one's in the morning, this one's, I don't want to do all that either. You know, when patients are paying a cash price, they want it to work probably even more than if they use their insurance. So that's another thing. Like it's pretty guaranteed that the medications are going to work.
That's a great guarantee to be able to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. You're active on social media as a PA. You kind of share what your day-to-day looks like and things like that. How important would you say that is being a dermatology and aesthetic provider?
In social media terms?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was going to say this one will really get on a soapbox, but I'll try to spare you that. But basically, I think it's super important because social media is really great for a lot of things, but it's also really terrible for a lot of things. And unfortunately, medical misinformation has like run rampant. So kind of just having the medical knowledge and the background, I think is super important. You know, some random company didn't pay me a bunch of money to just say like this, that, and the third. I went to PA school. I have a master's degree in medical science. I know what I'm talking about. So that's kind of nice to kind of put content out there that's meaningful and has medical background rather than just like my opinion on something. So for me, I'm really passionate about putting things that are evidence-based medicine and scientific rather than, you know, just like a random sales pitch that you'll often see with these kind of like skin influencers that drive all of us medical providers insane. So
favorite is when I find an influencer that's, you know, promoting one brand one week and then the next week they're already on to another one. And I instantly think that's probably why your skin is breaking out and freaking out because it's
right.
But I mean, some of us realize that and others, you know, they buy in and they end up buying that product each week. But I mean, you're making strides just by, you know, putting out content that's actually evidence-based and, you know, not just from a trend, but somewhere that comes from experience and knowledge on the matter. You're the expert. Do you see a lot of patients who have like tried a trend thinking it would be?
Oh, all the time. It's actually funny. Literally yesterday, someone was asking me if I had heard of some random skin brand, and they said literally verbatim, it was on TikTok, and I just like want to sink my head. So yeah, it literally happens all day, every day, and we kind of just have to lead them back.
I feel like the last, I don't know, maybe 2 years, I feel like TikTok's really picked up on trends in skincare and ads, and it's crazy to see. I know I've seen crazy like melasma hyperpigmentation trends where people are putting like stickers on their face and trying to take off the hyperpigmentation, and the logic behind that.
I haven't seen that, but I said I'm glad I haven't. But
maybe I'm on like the weird side of TikTok, but I saw that and I was like, no, don't do that to your skin. Like I'm no expert, but I know that's not gonna give you what you're looking for here.
Right. Or like, let's just destroy our skin barrier. Like that.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
gonna
Like
cure all the problems. Yeah.
maybe don't see a dermatologist and see if it's a good
Yes.
idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, some of those trends make me a little bit nervous, especially for the providers that have to deal with it after the fact. That can happen.
Yeah, but fortunately we can, but yeah, it would definitely be helpful if it didn't have to happen at all.
Right. It would probably save you some time.
For sure.
We didn't really talk about this yet, but not only do you prescribe SkinV, but you're also using SkinV yourself.
Yeah,
What
for sure.
what do you tell your patients that, or what
Oh,
started that?
1,000%. You can't really speak to anything unless you use it. Obviously I can't give myself medical conditions. I can't give myself psoriasis or hair loss, which I'm thankful for, but I'm also thankful that I can help patients get through that. But, I cry with my acne patients when they come in crying because I know what that feels like. So, and I have acne and I've struggled with it for a really long time. So I kind of just use myself as a guinea pig, and I try a lot of different things. And SkinV has honestly worked the best for me. And it's nice to that I can not only speak to the efficacy of the products, but I can also kind of talk about common side effects or things that they're going to see and kind of walk them through that. I had actually just started the Ceroxia probably like a month ago, which is your Treto 5,
Yeah.
for more of like anti-aging, but obviously that tretinoin is the gold standard for acne management as well. So I went through a pretty bad purging phase on my lower face. So quite embarrassing being a derm provider and an aesthetic provider. And I come in and I have big cysts on my face. But I'm like, hey, this is the medicine I'm using. This is what can happen. Does it happen to everybody? No. But certainly, like, do not panic. I'm at the 3 week mark and my chin has cleared up. So the purging has stopped. So I will kind of walk patients through that and explain that. And I feel like that's just really important and just vital so that they understand that, okay, this is common. Let me just stick with it. Nothing's worse than when they start something and it really grinds my gears when patients will come in and they say, well, I used it for a week and it wasn't working. I'm like, yeah, I know. I used it and my skin was peeling. Okay, did you moisturize? Did we talk, we talk about all these things. So it's just really important to kind of have the personal experience. And then you also relate with your patient too, which also kind of just helps to reestablish that relationship. So that's all super important to me.
Mhm. Yeah. So you mentioned Ceroxia cream, which is one of the most prescribed medications that you prescribe. A few other ones are the melasma emulsion and then the Nendrix gel for warts, corns, and calluses. Everyone's
Yeah, we
favorite.
love words. No, I'm just kidding. So honestly, it's actually really funny, and I'm like joking that we love words. So I told you earlier, I trained my whole team of staff to really, know, understand, and explain the SkinV medications because it just helps me out. I see patients every 10 minutes, and on days when I'm really booked, we are boom, boom, boom. But I don't get patient complaints that they feel rushed, which is fantastic because between the MAs talking to them, me talking to them, and then I will leave them in the room with the MA to, finish any further questions. They feel like they've had a comprehensive appointment, which is super important.
Mhm.
So coming back to warts, and again, like patient adherence, nothing's worse than having patients that come in with warts, especially kids. I see a lot of kids with warts, and the traditional methods are painful.
Mhm.
Liquid nitrogen hurts. Cantharidin doesn't hurt when you put it on, but it can hurt after the fact. It can burn the skin. It can cause blistering. They're all not fun processes. So honestly, to be able to say, I might have to do one of these uncomfortable treatments today, but we're going to give you a medication that you can use at home that's going to help work, relatively painless. You might get a little bit of irritation from it, but that's the point. Um, and then I don't have to see you for a month. It's not every 2 weeks that you're pulling your child out of school or you have to take time off from work to come see me. That's been a huge game changer for me. And then it also frees up my schedule, so that I'm not every 2 weeks having all the work follow up. And I'm able to see more patients that way too. So Nindrix has really been huge for me. And I love telling other providers about that too, because warts are something we see all day, every day, and just to have something that's a little bit more efficacious and easier to use, And someone will push back and say, oh, well, there's over-the-counter salicylic acids. Well, there are, but they're usually 10 or 20%. Nindrix is 40. It also has the lidocaine in it to kind of help with any pain. And I also just feel like we're really doing patients a disservice by saying, just go get the OTC stuff, it's fine. Usually they've already done that. And at that point, they're coming to a specialist, they're paying a copay, they might even need a referral depending on their insurance. We really need to kind of step it up as providers and say, okay, well, I have something that's only available by prescription. It's effective. It's not super costly, and it's going to help your condition. So that's kind of where I got on my soapbox, and I'm like, no, don't tell people OTCs. Like, I know truthfully for me, if I go to a doctor and they're like, just go get OTC stuff, I feel like they wasted my time. I'm going to be honest.
Right.
So,
Especially if you're paying that copay, like you said,
that's
you're
what
like,
I'm saying.
I
Yes.
kind of went to the aisle of CVS and figured out, what's the OTC like for me.
Exactly. So yeah, and I mean, like I've had previous insurance plans where my copay for a specialist was $150. So
Yeah.
if I paid $150 and they were like, go buy OTC, I would never go back to that provider again. So
For sure. So the one medication is the melasma emulsion that you prescribe. What's that like for you? What kind of patients? What's your go-to?
usually my pretty severe melasma patients will get that hydroquinone 8, I think is the strongest available or one of the strongest available. And then the hydrocortisone just kind of helps with irritation that might occur from it. And then the tretinoin 025 also can be a little bit irritating sometimes for patients, but typically those are my more severe melasma patients, usually darker skin complected, but not always. Or a lot of my hormonal melasma patients. Usually melasma is hormonal, but sometimes it is driven by sun as well.
What advice would you give to a new provider?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
Buckle up.
Just in terms of like seeing patients and like general patient care.
Anything that you're passionate about or anything you feel like you could have utilized when you were starting out as a provider or something that you're experiencing now?
Um, Honestly, I guess my biggest thing is just really take time with your patients. That's the biggest thing that, as when I was a lot younger and had just started out with this, I always felt like I had to just rush and hurry and see as many patients as possible and not really form a relationship with them necessarily, just because I was already kind of slower at seeing patients. So I would say really just take your time, be able to tailor your schedule in a way that will allow you to kind of build those connections and build those relationships with patients. And you can even just start out with something silly by like asking them what they do for work, or do they have any kids, or are they married, and just kind of keep it that way at first. And then obviously go into the medical aspects. I always do that with all my patients. I'm like, always start with, why are you here and things like that. But I will always take just a few minutes to just get to know them with what do you do for work, or what are you doing for the holidays, or just anything like that, that I think is just kind of like a personal touch. Because I feel like sometimes in the medical field, especially, it can be kind of sterile, if that makes sense. And it's just
Yeah.
very like, this is why you're here. This is your chief complaint. This is what I'm going to do to fix you. Okay, bye. And a lot of the personality can be taken out of it sometimes.
Yeah. No, I think that's great advice for providers. I feel like too, especially for new providers getting started out or anyone starting out a career, I feel like there's always a lot of pressure to perform efficiently or quickly or, be the best at it right out the gate. But it's important to, be present in those moments when you're getting started.
Mhm.
Recently in Ohio, a bill was passed for assistant to be changed to associate. And I feel like that's such a huge advance in the healthcare field. Um, what do you think that looks like for the rest of the US right now?
Yeah, I think some people still already kind of like nationwide call us physician associates now. I'm pretty sure that's been adopted by AAPA, which is
Mhm.
basically who represents us as PAs. But I think it'll help. But I think just in general, like especially using weeks like this week, like PA week, to just really educate patients about who we are as a profession and what our capabilities are. I think is going to be the biggest thing rather than a name. Truthfully, when I walk in, I tell patients I'm a PA. If they ask what that means, I still will say physician assistant just because that's what I'm so used to. But I do say there's no apostrophe S. I don't assist the doctor. I run my own show. Yes, I have my supervising physician and our relationship is vital for me to practice, absolutely. But I do have a lot of autonomy in my role as a PA, which is fantastic. So I think just really making patients understand that we are, I really like the terminology APP or advanced practice provider. I feel like that's a little bit more encompassing of like PAs and NPs because we have very kind of similar roles in the healthcare field. So really, I just think it comes down to more than just like names and kind of getting bogged down in all of that, just educating people about our capabilities and our limitations too, obviously. But I think more so just showing how we play an important role in the healthcare field. Sure.
I know you're also an aesthetic provider. So do you use SKNV numbing cream for your patients if they're doing like injections?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's definitely helpful versus some of the other ones. And what I was actually saying, why I like yours in comparison to some of the others, because a lot of the other pharmacies do offer those same kind of formulations, but yours are in that pump. So just from a sheer sanitation standpoint, it's huge for me because, you know, when I'm putting a needle into somebody's skin and I can potentially be introducing bacteria, which can, you know, have horrible issues with it. So for me to kind of just be able to pump that out and apply without having to worry, sometimes we'll have like tubs where we have to kind of dig it out with something. Usually it's something sterile, but still it kind of, there's risks of contamination. So having that kind of pump style to put on patients is really beneficial. And it honestly keeps it from kind of getting stagnant, if that makes sense.
No, that does make sense. Do you use it? Do you do microneedling too, or do you just do injecting?
So I don't right now. We are going to be introducing that soon. So yeah, definitely for the microneedling, that will be huge too. But I mean, I do a lot of dermal fillers, and I always numb for those. I mean, some patients are like, I'll just do it. I don't care, but
they're brave.
They are. And that's like another thing where I say, like, I've had aesthetic injections, so I can speak to it. And like, I don't sugarcoat things. I'm like, yeah, lip filler is really uncomfortable. And like cheek filler feels a little funky. So we can kind of get you through. But again, just having those topicals to really help kind of alleviate some of that pain is huge.
Definitely. Something that we do on SKNV DermTalks is rapid fire questions. So whatever comes to your mind first, we'll just blurt it out.
Okay.
Okay. What is one thing you cannot leave home without?
Unfortunately, my cell phone. I would love to not be so connected, but I need that darn thing. So
yeah. It's the same way.
Yeah.
The favorite part of your job.
Favorite part of my job, honestly, is just making a difference in patients' lives. Like I was saying, just really getting to know my patients on a more meaningful level. You know, I've followed many of my patients have followed me for many years. So we kind of just see each other through all the phases of life. You know, starting out almost 10 years ago, I didn't have any kids. I wasn't married. Now I've been married for 7 years. I have 2 beautiful children. So it's just really fun to kind of see how things develop over time and just establish that relationship.
Yeah. Okay. Early bird or night owl?
Oh my gosh, early bird. I'm up at between 4 and 4:30 every morning, but I also go to bed by like 8:30. So take that caveat as it is.
Most memorable patient interaction?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Honestly, it was quite a few years ago. I had a really young patient. I think she was in her early 20s, and she came to me literally for an acne refill. Happy on her medication, literally just wanted a refill. And while she was there, she was like, "Hi, do you just mind doing a quick little skin exam on me? Like, I've never had one. I don't have any concerns, but do you mind?" And I'm so flexible. I'm always like, "Of course." So I came back in and I did her exam and I found a melanoma. So that was just like a really sobering moment for me. And that was probably at least 7 years ago, and it hasn't left. So that kind of just is something that sticks with me. And again, like a kind of ode to providers, take that extra step, do the little extra. You literally could save somebody's life. Take it from me, I experienced it. So you know, patients ask you for a little something. Yes, you might be busy, you know, but just do it. Because literally, if I hadn't done that for her, who knows if she ever would have had a skin check at some point. And it was funny because she said, "Oh, I was at my family doctor and they ran blood work and everything was fine. Like, I don't understand how I have this." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the luck of this, is that we caught it at its earliest form. Like, if we found it in your blood work, then we have a bigger issue." Yeah, just take the extra time. It really, literally could save somebody's life.
That's amazing. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Because who knows if she would have scheduled that skin check if you said
No,
no.
no, no. Yeah, you get busy, you forget, whatever. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so now we're going to tone it down a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was a very like, whoa.
Yeah. Still so important, but
Yeah.
what are your favorite pizza toppings?
Oh my gosh. So I'm kind of boring. So I'm Jewish, so I don't eat pork, but we do turkey pepperoni a lot.
So first thing you do in the morning.
That's like a joke. It's like open my eyes. But honestly, I work out very first thing. That kind of just sets the tone, gets the blood flowing, kind of just ups my mood a little bit. So yeah, if I need a rest day, I will just like come downstairs, sit on the couch, make a coffee, and just like take a few minutes again, just to kind of like collect myself, get myself kind of centered and ready to go.
Awesome. And then the preferred way to unwind after a long day.
Honestly, just hanging with my kids. We like to do like little family movie nights. So literally for about an hour before bedtime, we'll just kind of hang in the living room on the couch and just turn a little movie on. We 9 times out of 10 won't even finish it, but just kind of laying there snuggling with them, just kind of capturing those moments because they are so fleeting, is just the best way for me to just be like, okay, unwind, we're good, all is right, and off to bed.
Yeah, off to bed. As we wrap up, is there anything you want to plug, like your socials or your website or anything? Where can someone find you?
Yeah, so probably the easiest is my Instagram. It's created by Cassie Cohen. And then obviously our website is warringtonderm.com. So super easy there. Yeah, we're in Bucks County, PA. So if you are local, come find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. We really enjoyed having you.
Yeah, thank you.